This video starts in less than 10 seconds, but hey, I now have a Discord. Right there's my code. If you want to go add me or have a little chat, you can do that now. Anyways, here's the video for you. Welcome back to the Speedy Pizza series, or whatever it's called, I forget. Anyways, here's my total pizzas, 896 at the moment. And what we're going to be doing in this part of the series is testing out different pizza making methods. Now the reason why I'm doing this is not necessarily to show speed, because everybody makes pizzas at a different speed and with their own different ways. I just want to test effectiveness in other areas, like how many gralats they make, or how many pizzas you can make out of a one peel. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. This one is the standard edition. Let me check my gralats real quick. 1,678 before it adds gralats to my account for making that first pizza. Anyways, this is what I consider the standard edition of pizza making, or pretty much what I use to make pizzas most of the time. Now, a while back I tried measuring the effectiveness of this by looking at gralat counts and looking at the amount of pizzas that were made out of single peel. And what I found on the results of it was that it made around 500 gralats usually, and 50 pizzas were made with a single peel. So pretty much what I'm doing here is not only testing the effectiveness of different methods, but also seeing if this still applies, or did they buff it or nerf it in some way or another. Now, I realize that most of you have stuff to do and that you don't really want to watch a 17-minute video with almost no content. So you can do one of two things on this video. You could click on the timestamp in the description and go straight to the end of the video, or you could stick around and listen to me tell a story. Choice is yours. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you chose to stick around. I'm actually kind of surprised. Anyways, the story is pretty much going to be on how I started an era down in late 2013 and early 2014, and pretty much detailing what I can remember myself doing during that time. Now, surprise, surprise! I started in very late October of 2013. How do I remember when I started? Well, I remember being introduced to trick-or-treating and thinking, hey, this is kind of strange, but it's also kind of cool. You get free food. But I didn't really understand the significance of it at the time. Now, how I even got to find era? Well, it's quite simple. My siblings were playing it. Oh, there's Agility. He's sent me a Discord message. He's going to send me a couple more. Just disregard those. Anyways, my siblings got me into era because at the time they were playing them on their Kindles. And, yeah, I say Kindles because I was kind of young at the time. Younger than I am right now. About, say, 5 years younger. Anyways, so pretty much the mentality at this age was monkey see, monkey do. So if you saw someone playing something that they thought was really fun, chances are you would join in with them. So, as you could expect, I started playing era. And that's how it all began. Now, for the next couple of months, I would play on and off. So, throughout November, I was on some times, off some other times. Now, the thing about when I was playing at this point, I didn't know Unstick Me existed. So, whenever I got stuck in a wall, I was done for. So, I had to reinstall the app. And since I didn't have an email account at that time, I couldn't identify myself. So, I pretty much had to start all over. Eventually, I got tired of having to start over a ton, so what I did was I identified with one of my brother's email accounts to make sure that my account stayed safe. And I knew the password to it, so it was easy to log into, and I could identify and such. So I did that, and it worked for a while until one of my siblings decided to use his Facebook account, which was under the same email. When a Facebook account's under the same email and you're using the email that's not identified with Facebook, the two accounts sort of merge together. So, pretty much what happened was, when they identified with that Facebook account, our two accounts sort of merged together into one account. And since they had more stuff on it and were more farther into the game, they convinced me to relinquished my part of the account to them so they could continue playing and not have to start over. So, basically saying, I was back to square one. I was angry for a little while, but I realized that I needed to do something else. So, I created my own email account and identified it under that, so that way that couldn't happen again. So, some of you OG subscribers, in which I have about 87 of them at the time I'm recording this, probably remember from earlier videos that my name was Mr. Epic Gen. Now, I pulled that over from a Minecraft name that I randomly created with help of one of my other siblings, so that permanently became my username on Era, at least for quite a while. So anyways, December rolled around and presents were released. Now, at this point, it took me so long to get gralats. In fact, to get 100 of them, I'd have to grind for about 15 to 30 minutes because I hadn't really discovered how good pizza making was at the time. I just thought it was one of those jobs that didn't pay very well. I just continued to do trash and mushrooms and such. And it took quite a while because everybody was getting gralats for presents. Now, there were still scammers at this time. And remember, this was at the time where presents were still droppable. So, like, dropping scams were very prevalent. You would enter the person's house, they would usually say you first, you drop the present, they'd kick you from the house, or they'd lock you in a cage and say, drop the present and I'll open the cage. And sometimes they were legit, sometimes they would, like, kick you out. And I got so mad when they were scamming because, like, it took so long for me to get those. But enough about Christmas. That came and passed, and I thought that was pretty cool that they did that, and I was super happy when they brought it back next year. But anyways, let's go into the main stuff, like 2014. Now, back then I couldn't get gralats very well, so if I wanted a gun, I'd have to use my actual money in order to get it. So, I pretty much bought an M1 carbine with about $3 worth of gralats. Now, the thing about the M1 is that it's not very good, so even though I bought that, I thought I had a step up, but really it was a bit of a step down. I mean, I could probably kill people with dual starter pistols now much easier than I can with that M1. In the February month, though, when Valentine's Day rolled around, they had something called a Heartbreaker there, and it was a cool gun that I wanted. So, I bought it, probably with actual money, or maybe I had enough gralats for it at the time. Regardless, I remember sometime after that, I got my first 50 streak ever. Now, this is pretty monumental for me because I thought killing 50 people without dying in-game was pretty insane, and that if people who did that were pretty much almost untouchable. And the fact that I did that kind of excited me quite a bit because it meant that I was probably moving up in the ranks of Era as not really a noob, but a bit more of a general player. Side note, I tried to create a gang back then. Its name was the Renaissance because I saw some cool meme that said, dude, we should go to the Renaissance Fair dressed as pirates. So I'm like, hey, Renaissance, that's a pretty good name. So I founded a guild called the Renaissance. It did okay for a while, although I didn't quite get as much loyal membership as I would have wanted. And I let it okay for a while. It just didn't get much basing time. About 3 minutes of basing time, I think. When April rolled around, I got my permanent look for what I thought would be for quite a while. So, I used one of those general bodies that you get at the start of the game, and I makeshifted it into a bit of a tuxedo. I had that yellow smiley face that was that's usually on page 3 of your head page, and I went to the Easter shop and bought a gas mask with bunny ears on it, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I thought it looked super nice. So, I was super happy when I got the skin, and tell you what, it looks something like this. Okay, it looks pretty close to this, but the bunny gas mask is unavailable since that was on my unlinked account. Well, anyways, so I had that look, and it was pretty nice. And I think I remember it was around this time that I decided to join a guild. Now, I didn't have any good places to start, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted out of a guild. Like, did I want to base with them? Did I want to just hang around with them? So I decided, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a little bit of both in there? So I started PMing people at start. Now, the problem with this is they want people with, like, M4 or better. Now, I didn't have that. I had M1 Carbine, F2000 TAC, and maybe some other gun, but I'm not really sure what it was called. I think it was the M3, but the M3 kind of sucked, and it was a shotgun. Still in game. Still sucks. Anyways, so I managed to get into a guild that is named Too Fresh. Toofresh. And this was ran by a dude by the name of Isaac, now known as Snur. You know, you Zone people probably remember him. I think he was a Zone admin at some point. But anyways, he was the leader of Too Fresh and had quite a few fun people in there. Now, my brother was one of those people that was in this gang. Now, he knew I was in the gang and didn't really like the fact that I was there, but he was okay with me being there just as long as nobody really knew that we were brothers. So, I didn't tell anybody. Now, they eventually found out, but you know what? I don't think they really cared. So, it was all chill there. I met some people in which I was friends with for a few years on this game, such as this person named Cookie, who I remember being a fan of One Direction, her husband in game MF Alley, or Liam at the time, Cookie's friend Mint, who is now known as this person named Nubby that quit very early on, a guy who went by the name of Dino, in which I forget where he went, and, of course, last but not least, there was Kay. Now, Kay at first I didn't really like him because he was a little pessimistic, but once I got to know him a little more, I decided, hey, this dude's not so bad. So I became pretty good friends with this dude. We sort of played around together and had a pretty good time for quite a while. But one day, he left for a couple weeks to go on vacation. And boy, who knew doing just that would cause so much trouble? Now, it was around this time in which Too Fresh peaked in popularity, and every day we'd get to like 39th on the list. Now, that was cool and all, but it sort of attracted a little bit of attention, especially from this young lad named Ace. Now, it's not that Ace wasn't okay. He's a good person. It's just the way he entered the guild and kind of fooled people around for a while was rather questionable. You see, instead of just asking to join the game and telling us his guns, instead he decided to impersonate Kay. Now, you're probably wondering, couldn't you have just seen through this very easily by using your friends list and seeing that he wasn't on it? Well, that's the thing, though. At this time, I wasn't really checking my friends list, so I wasn't exactly sure if it was really Kay or not. So, I believed his fib for quite a while, until the real Kay got back. When the real Kay came back, he changed his name back to Ace, and full-time was Ace, or his other pseudoism, Gramps. Now, I don't think the rest of us guild members really liked the fact that he impersonated Kay, but we kept him around anyways, because, let's face it, he was a good PKer and baser when he played this game. Anyways, a couple months after this thing happened, the leader, Zach, decided to disband the gang and change his name to Snur because he was about to quit the game. Now, us being the guild members that we decided to talk him out of it so that way we could continue being together as a group. Now, fortunately, the convincing worked, but Snur was still kind of sad because he got scammed 50,000 Trocious or some big number of shells like that from the trade tables, which is why he really wanted to quit the game then. So now, Too Fresh has been re-established with Snur back at the helm. Are you bored yet? Don't worry, we're almost there. If you don't want to wait this long, though, remember there's always that description timestamp that you could click on. Now, welcome to June 2014. This was the time in which I officially adopted the frog look. This first frog look was nothing special. I had kept the same body from before, but turned the hands green. I found a frog head from a head pack I've recently bought, because I decided that I wanted to be an animal, because there wasn't many animals in the game at that time. Wasn't any of those cat skins you see nowadays from those guys who go on the GXX sites and say, hey, this is nice, I think I'm going to upload this in-game, and not really do anything to it. Anyways, I then had a mustache, or what seemed to be a mustache. It was actually those basic sunglasses you get at the beginning of the game. In fact, here's an image of what that skin exactly looked like. Ah, good old Froghead. This brings back so many memories. Anyway, so yeah, that's what it looked like. And a little while later, actually, I got my first custom upload. Now, I'm going to answer the age-old questions today. Is your head upload? Where you get upload? Short answer, GrailDepot.com. No joke. I literally grabbed a frog that looked very old, in which, like, it had a white beard and mustache. It was pretty much like Santa Frog. I took away the beard and mustache, and made the eye robotic. Now, making the eye robotic, I wasn't very good at GFX back then. Still aren't really good at it today. Anyways, so the edit that I made to this head to make it robotic, it wasn't very good, but it was somewhat decent to the fact that people would still respect my upload. And here's a couple of tidbits for you. Number one, the robotic eye part was slightly based off of Rob G and his robotic heads, in the fact that robotics, and not necessarily in style. And the second is that I can't actually upload that head in-game anymore, because Era has different custom upload policies in which you can't upload things that are neither human nor animal. in the sense of robotics.
But Mr. Lepto, I have a question for you. Why does Rob G still have his upload?
Good question, my generic impersonation of a prepubescent viewer. You see, Rob G was staff at one point. In fact, I think he was a graphics admin or a player relations staff. Because of the fact that he's an ex-admin, he can have that head for as long as he wants. Anyways, after fixing some transparency issues and after what seemed to be like 3 or 4 hours, I finally got the head uploaded, and it looked pretty solid. And then July rolled around, with the Canada Day and Independence Day shops. Now, I'm pretty sure that year, the firework launcher released in shop. Now, the firework launcher, if you don't know, is pretty much what it sounds like. A rocket launcher that shoots fireworks. I don't remember if that was the exact year or maybe it was the year after that, but I'm just going to say it was in 2014. Not only that, but there was something legendary there. The Canada Day Spar Communicator. It was pretty much like one that's down at the beach shop and looks okay, but it had a red Canadian maple leaf on it, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
But Lepto, you said your old skin was the coolest thing ever.
Well, it was until I changed it to this new skin. Then that became super cool. Now, at this point, I think the gangster shop opened up, so I was able to buy an actual business suit in contrast to using that default skin but recolored to look like a tuxedo. So that looked pretty cool, and I had a necktie on it and everything. I'm not going to really show you a photo, but I think there's an old Instagram account that you can go to in which you might be able to see a photo of it. Just look up Mr. Epic Gen on Instagram and see what you find. There might be a photo or two there of my old skin. And before you ask, no, that is not self-promotion, as I never post there anymore. So, yeah, I don't really have much else to tell you at the moment. That was late 2013 or early 2014, at least my experience in-game of how that happened. To all of you viewing this video, please go down to the comments section and tell me what you thought of my early era crew experience, and if you want to hear more about how I did in this game in like later years, like say 2016 or 17, I'd be happy to tell them to you over much longer videos, like maybe the other methods of pizza making. So, yeah, just let me know. In the meantime, there's going to be a couple minutes until this finishes up and you get to see the results. Oh, I stand corrected. We're at 49 right now. Okay, Lepto, make one more pizza. Just one more. Oh, and I realized earlier while editing this that I made a mistake. It's actually 51 pizzas and not 50, so keep that in mind in this next few seconds, okay? Thanks for listening to my story. It means a lot. Well, you want the results? We've got the results. We've made it to 50 pizzas made in the peel. I'm going to reveal that I've made 101 more pizzas than the start of the video, and 705 more gralats. So, I think they might have buffed the gralat pricing, but I'm not quite sure. I don't think it matters, though. The fact of the matter is, that was standard mode for you, and hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all on the streets of Era.